Today I want to show you guys a very simple and easy way to make some sea moss gel. I know that we're all about taking our health into our own hands, but sometimes it can be a little costly, especially when it comes to really beneficial items like sea moss gel, because these products already done can range from anything like $20 to 40 US dollars, and sometimes I've even seen a jar of sea moss gel for about 60 to $70. And so in this video, it's going to be a super easy step-by-step process on how you can make sure that you have this super beneficial product in your fridge at all times for as little as $5 to $10. I'm also going to share with you the health benefits of why you should be using sea moss gel on a daily basis and some of the benefits that it can contribute to your longevity and your health so that you can avoid going to the doctors as much as possible and you can avoid a lot of health problems that can be easily resolved with a daily supplementation of sea moss gel. So let's get into it. First, let's talk about different types of sea moss and where you can get them from. Here you can see I have a more coarse version, which we in Jamaica like to call Irish moss. And this was picked directly from the ocean, dried, and brought home to me here in the States. This type of sea moss typically takes longer to prepare. So if you are looking to have something done a little bit quicker, I recommend this other species of sea moss that I have here that's specifically from Vietnam. I got it from my local farmer's market for about less than $10 for the entire bag. I love this option because it allows me to prepare multiple batches. It's easy for me to get locally, and I love the texture and the consistency of this sea moss here because all you have to do is soak it overnight in some filtered water and you are able to blend it the next day and achieve a pretty nice consistency similar to that of applesauce. Outside of these two types of sea moss, there are so many other species, and where you can get these, if you are located in the States or if you're not somewhere close to the ocean, you can go to your local farmer's market and see what sea mosses they have in stock. Depending on the coarseness of the sea moss and the texture of the sea moss, you're going to either want to boil it or just soak it overnight if it has a looser texture and consistency. You can also order your sea moss online. If you do this option, I recommend doing your research in order to find more reputable and good quality products online. Or if you're like me, you can take a trip out to whichever country you'd like and pick the sea moss yourself, dry it, and travel back home with it. Let's get into the actual steps of making your sea moss gel. The first thing you're going to want to do, depending on the type of sea moss that you have, you're going to want to soak it overnight in filtered water, and my preference is to leave it on the counter in this cold filtered water that I get from my fridge and cover it and just allow the sea moss to loosen up and get a little bit softer before blending it. This allows for it to have a much smoother consistency than if I were to just throw it in a blender without having gone through that soaking process. If you're choosing a more coarser sea moss like the Irish moss that I had earlier in the video, I recommend boiling that for a few hours after soaking it overnight just to loosen it up even more, because when you go to blend it, you want to make sure that there aren't any large chunks, and that's mostly due to the fact that the sea moss is so thick and it's so strong. I think a good way to test whether or not your sea moss is ready to be blended is if you were to pick up a strand of it and just kind of snap it apart, seeing how easy it is to snap. That will give you a good indication of how well it'll blend when you go to blend it. The next step is to drain your sea moss a few times. So whether you were boiling it or soaking it overnight, you want to make sure that you drain it and run it through some water to remove any excess salt or to remove any excess things that might be hanging around there, because these are picked from the ocean, and so it can come with many different things that you may not want to taste or have in your sea moss gel. So I just recommend draining it and cleaning it a few times. A lot of the important minerals and vitamins are within the sea moss itself, so don't worry about washing away any of the benefits. Step 3, even if you boiled your sea moss, I do recommend adding some boiled water to the mixture when you are blending it. This helps to achieve that consistency that you'd like. So instead of using room temperature or cold water, I like to use boiling hot water when blending my mixture. The way I like to see it is I'd rather have it much looser while it's blending than have it super thick during the blending process, as well as when it goes into my fridge. It just makes it a little more difficult for the sea moss to break down in water when you're putting it in your teas or when you're putting it in your smoothies. The consistency that you have when you first blend it is super important, because it'll determine the texture that you get over the course of using your sea moss gel. Step 4 is to blend your sea moss slowly and add in your boiled water until you achieve that consistency that you desire. And as I mentioned, when you store it in the fridge, it'll thicken up even more. So go as loose as you want, and then just know that it'll thicken up as time goes by. At this point, it's optional to add any sort of flavorings. I personally like mine plain because I like tasting the salt and the minerals from the ocean. But if you are someone who prefers a much nicer taste, this is a time where you would add any sort of fresh fruit, things like mangoes, pineapples, herbs. You can also add mint, ginger, turmeric, or natural sweeteners like honey or agave to give your sea moss a better taste. And when you add any of these flavorings or these herbs, just be sure to not overdo it. Very little goes a long way. And so just try to play around with different types of flavors, see what works best for you, because at the end of the day, it's going to be something that you want to enjoy taking. So find your flavor that works, try them all or try none. Whatever works for you is going to be the best option. So last step I have here is to store your sea moss in an airtight container. Usually I use a mason jar, and this way it stores best. It can store up to 2 to 3 weeks, which is the recommendation. I've definitely had my sea moss in my fridge for way longer than that, but when I prepare batches, I typically only like to prepare batches that will last me about 2 to 3 weeks. And that's it. 5 easy steps to making your own sea moss gel at home. I take about 2 spoons a day, once in the rising, with some lemon and warm water. I take just enough to kind of cleanse out my systems. In the afternoon or at night, I will take another spoonful, whether it's just straight up or in some sort of food item that I'm having at the time, whether it's a granola bowl or a smoothie or any sort of juice that I might blend up. So now that I've shown you how to make your own sea moss gel at home for less than $10, now I want to share with you some of the benefits of making this a part of your daily routine. So the first thing is that sea moss is a nutrient-dense superfood. It's one of the very few items that contain over 92 of the 102 essential minerals that our body needs. It contains some of the most essential minerals, such as iodine, which I'll be making a separate video all about because of how powerful it is for not only our hormones, but our entire endocrine system. And this is one of the only ways that we can get the natural form of iodine into our diet. Outside of that, we have things such as seaweed or kelp that we can incorporate into our diet to make sure we're getting the proper iodine intake. But again, I'll make a separate video all about that. Sea moss gel also contains iron, magnesium, potassium, zinc, calcium, just to name a few. And I don't know of any other food item where we can get all of that in a large amount and a large quantity in such a small spoon. Sea moss gel is great for hormone balance, so anyone suffering from hyperthyroidism or hypothyroidism, this would be a great item for you to start incorporating into your daily supplementation in order to begin seeing some positive results in your hormone balance. Because it's naturally high in iodine, it provides thyroid support and it makes us properly regulate our metabolism, our energy levels, as well as other things that come with hormone imbalance. So keep that in mind. Not only is it great for your hormones and your thyroid and your endocrine system, it's also great for your immune support. And so it contains compounds like potassium chloride and antioxidants that can help reduce inflammation and improve your immune response. this is so important, especially in the winter time, especially when a lot of people are lacking in vitamin D because the sun goes down and we only have about 4 hours of sunlight a day. I think in addition to it being a great immune support, it is also a great mood support as well in this instance. But I love to take sea moss gel more so in the winters because I do recognize that when I have it as a part of my daily routine, I'm less susceptible to any sort of flu or anything, any bug that's going around at the time, or any sort of viruses that may be going around. And lastly, for this video, I want to talk about the digestive health benefits of sea moss gel. It's a natural prebiotic, meaning it supports gut health by giving you all the good bacteria that you need in order for your digestive system to function properly. And if you ask anyone, I know some of my friends who I put onto this have been saying how amazing they feel after they take their sea moss gel in the morning because they're able to have movements more regularly than they were before. And when you're going to the bathroom more regularly, you're naturally detoxifying your body. So the sea moss gel aids in that natural detoxification process that is essential for our bodies to function properly and to make sure that we're not building anything up. So these are just a few of the amazing benefits of sea moss gel. And if you're curious about learning how to incorporate this in your wellness journey, be sure to subscribe to my newsletter down below where I'll be sharing so many tips on mindfulness, nutrition, holistic living, and how to live a healthier and more intentional life. Thank you.